Hi, everybody. This is June 10th, 2026, and we are on day 2,138 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss, taken down to the arms room where they took his life, and then they stole his body off of Fort Bliss. This is on Fort Bliss, and because he was a whistleblower, and they ordered that the 24-hour whistleblower protection, they ordered that off that day. They gave them off that day so that they could take Richard's life, and they trafficked his body across the border for disposal. And we were not notified. Time went by. We had to call Richard's unit to ask why we hadn't heard from Richard. And we went to El Paso. Of course, we were lied to. So we got in our truck. Well, we organized a bit, right? We organized because with the phone calls that we were having, we realized that Richard had been murdered. And of course, the search of our house without a warrant to bully us and intimidate us. That was a red flag. That was a red flag. Um, so we got a group and organized and went and lived in El Paso. We rallied 4 to 6 times a week. We went over to Juarez probably, I would say close to 3 dozen times. And met with, well, we had all of our meetings, even the dog and pony show, with the military leadership. What they did to Richard really exposed I want to call it the deep state, but it is really the El Paso cartel, Mormon faction. It's a Mormon faction tied with the El Paso cartel, with the cartel operatives. It is organized crime in our country to, unbelievable. Really, it really exposes this organized criminal population. It's a population, y'all. And that's why, they were putting us off, because how do you address, especially when they're in the FBI and the CIA and the CID and the CBP, and they're in our military, and they're in our military officers' uniforms, and they are in the DA's office and in the AUSA Western District of Texas office, and when they're in our political offices, you know, how do you address it? And we knew it was big because they can't say Richard's name, right? Um, now at the beginning, they gave a false narrative. Now that he has paperwork behind him in the line of duty, and all of the piles of evidence, the robust mountains of evidence that show that Dallas Hart was his platoon leader and is a prime suspect in his murder. When we have the confession of Leilani Hart, you don't see that in the news. When we have the confirmation that Michael Mayella in the federal courthouse, managing the cases for David Guadarrama and the other judges in the courthouse. But that's the Walmart, federal judge, that the manager's family was actually one of the shooters of the Walmart mass shooting. You can't, and they were hiding that. They were hiding that the other family member was in the Walmart cybersecurity, and in the DA's office too with Jaime Esparza, and also still in the FBI, Um, you know, the level of crime and that James Montoya's uh, guilty, Bill Hicks is guilty, Jaime Esparza is guilty, and this is guilty of treason. Okay, when I say guilty, it is yes for the murder of our son, a U.S. Army soldier, the trafficking of his body, the cover up, but also the orchestration and um, the staging of the bloody Walmart mass shooting, and the weaponization of it to attack President Trump. They are guilty of that. They are guilty of the highest treason. And now we have another Mayella situation. We knew that Nidal Tahsin Baem, the Palestinian arms dealer, impersonator of the FBI, who demanded that the witness be silenced, that they take down flyers of Richard that confess that Richard's body, dismembered body, had been trafficked to Juarez, that the FBI were in Juarez conducting operations. These are rogue and unlawful operations because the FBI can't be in a foreign country. But he confessed that they were. And now that we know, because of the Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Chihuahua Governor Maru Campos' treasonous treaty, we know that they were in Juarez, that they were even given in the Fiscalia, which is the prosecutor's office building, that they were given office space and that they were carrying their M4s with them because the lead FBI agent in the Walmart case was also Fort Bliss headquarters division for 1AD under Sean Bernabe, wearing two hats and more than that, three hats. If he got office space in Chihuahua in the Fiscalia, um, because we know that he's part of the Mormon faction, and the Mormon faction have very tight ties to Chihuahua, right? They are the Chihuahuan colonies, the Mormon colonies in Chihuahua that are dual citizen. You can look up the LeBaron family. They got caught up there. You can see that really shows it, or the Romney family really shows it. But these are cartel operatives who we're talking about that are part of this whole Mormon faction, Chihuahua, dual citizen in the FBI, in the CIA, in the CBP, in the DEA, in the DHS. All of these intelligence community, the EPIC, the El Paso Intelligence Center, who totally failed, right? They've totally failed. Um, and, it's like, why do we, it's kind of like the DPS, they totally failed. But now um, our our evidence goes even further that the DA's office now was colluding, conspiring to cover up Nidal Baem, to cover up what they knew about our son. This is, and of course, that has to do with the Walmart case. This is, really high treason. And, it can't happen soon enough that this population, this population that does this, like Frances Maldonado. She's the first one. I hope I'm saying her name right. It's late. It's late, and they are absolutely guilty of the highest crimes against our country. They are the scum of the earth. I can't, I can't even be angry because I'm not allowed to be angry. One day I'm going to be allowed to be angry. Now is not the day to be angry. Um, uh, but I want justice. We want justice. We want their arrests, and we want them to face the highest penalty. Francis's husband was in the DA's office also under Jaime Esparza, and was then promoted to AUSA, the federal prosecutor's office for the Western District of Texas. They absolutely knew everything about the Walmart mass shooting, about Julio Cordero's case, about Richard's case. These people they were not just derelict, okay? They were part of it. They were part of the crime. They are the criminals, and they're running our prosecutor's office on the in the 34th Judicial District and in the federal district, Western District of Texas. They are absolutely criminal. And of course, Nidal Tahsin Baem, his son-in-law is lieutenant colonel in the 32nd ADCOM. So they had access into the military. These are the infiltrators. These are the major criminal infiltrators in our military that pollute our military, that abuse our military, that weaponize our military. And now, and I even have more news. It's just so, if this doesn't get you on your feet, because these are all the cases that went through the DA's office, that went through the AUSA's office. And they are the ones that are sucking the taxpayer money. So not only are they not giving you justice, they're making you poor, and they're laughing. And they absolutely knew what happened to Richard. And they just led us on. Here we are, 6 years. These people need to be arrested. They're monsters. They need to be arrested, and they need to be facing the firing squad or the needle or the hanging, whatever the death penalty is, because I heard Montoya talk so much about the death penalty for Patrick Crucius, and he didn't deliver it. He didn't deliver it because he was part of it. That's why they can't install properly. They're fakes. They're frauds. They're not installed properly. And then can you imagine this Frances Michelle Engelbaum? She wants to be a judge, and Montoya, the fraud, is like endorsing her to be a judge. Does that judgeship even count when it is a scum of the earth that is sitting on the bench like Sam Medrano? Does it even count when they're criminal? It is, and her husband is, I mean, in the AUSA, does that even count? They need to pay back everything that they have taken from the American people, because they have deprived us from services that they swore they swore to defend our Constitution. They swore to do something good for the United States, do something good for their district. And they are the scum of the earth, the polluters, the takers, the deceivers, the imposters, the fakes, the frauds, the fraudsters. And they bring us hell on earth because they are connected with the El Paso cartel. They are the ones that cover up for the traffickers, for those that traffic through the school tunnels. They are the ones that cover for the fentanyl deaths. They are the ones that cover for 500,000 children being trafficked through Fort Bliss. They are the ones that cover for the brutal murder of a U.S. Army whistleblower soldier that evidence indicates they took his organs and they cashed in through the VA fraud with imposters, and then they took whatever was left of them over to the border for disposal. They are the ones that cover for the Ariano Corone funeral fraud, sacrilegious, flesh peddling with the purchased funeral homes, and organ harvesting and baby harvesting and the black market with the babies. And they're the ones that are covering for all of it. These are animals, y'all. These are monsters. And I don't care if they go get their hair done. I don't care if they have their facials done. I don't care if they wear suits or fine dresses. I don't care if they're in these robes with gavels. They need to be stripped of the robes and the gavels. Can you imagine what the damage that we can't even imagine the damage that these monsters have done? And they have no authority at all to sit above anybody else, to investigate, to prosecute, to judge. When they let Nidal Tahsin Baem, a terrorist, he just tried to flee to the Strait of Hormuz to Kuwait with $44,000 of stolen money. These are terrorists. These are horror makers. But it's not a horror film. It's real life horror. Think about the bodies. 400 bodies just stuffed everywhere. They weren't even, I always say, oh, they were piled up like cardboard. They were just like in rat infested rot. No air condition, no potable water, 400 bodies. And this is this El Paso cartel that is in alliance with the CJNG, which are flesh peddlers too, and they're flesh eaters, with the CJNG cartel, with the Juarez cartel, which is Osvaldo Rodriguez Barunda, right, of Alda Diario, Carlos Manuel Salas, this group, and then the Sinaloa cartel, the El Chapo arm of the Sinaloa cartel, the La Linea, which is headquarters out of Nova Casa Grande, and the pattern of deception is there because remember, we reported on Steven Spitzer, the attorney, the U.S. attorney for the Western District of Texas, and his participation in the kidnapping without extradition papers of El Mayo, because El Mayo was getting in the way of the El Chapo Sinaloa alliance with the El Paso cartel. They kidnapped him, and of course he's in prison. And I don't want to say that I'm for what El Mayo did, but this is, uh, a people that know the law, that intentionally break the law because they are not abiding by their oaths, abiding by the law of the land. They are serving the cartel, the traffickers. They want the fentanyl precursors. And this is where, of course, Nidal Baem comes in and his connections with the Strait of Hormuz, and Western Frontier Trading, which is suing him right now, which is interesting, all the cover. So, and of course, this is all for the prices weapons, right? They don't use their own money. They go over to Fort Bliss and take their weapons and ammunition and use it as a currency to get their precursors, chemicals, to make their fentanyl or whatever drugs, and of course cocaine and all of that. Yeah, and of course when it comes to the children, I don't even want to get into the children, but that absolutely is a real thing. And was no coincidence that the Hart family had Hart childcare. It was no coincidence that there were these confessions that the system had, because the system was infiltrated by their cartel operatives. And I know because James Hart told me that Marlon Soto, the CID, called him up and said that, and was leaking to him about his investigation into the investigations of the crimes, of the worst type of crimes against children and incest and all weapons and everything like that. Um, so the leaks, we know that the leaks were coming out of the FBI with Connell Wetton leaking to the cartel the identity of our son because he was a whistleblower and he leaked that. We know that there were leaks coming out of the DA's office and the AUSA's office, leaks going to the cartel. And this is all because the bigger picture, the Paul Foster, Western refining, and Marathon Oil and all that stuff. Their goals, right? Their goals for the trafficking, the stolen fuel that they can resell. That's the El Paso cartel, and it's because of the facilitation, because of the infiltration. It allowed for the facilitation of the treasonous treaty between Chihuahua and Texas, which is so illegal. They can't do that because border security is a federal job, not a state job. So this is, they needed to notify the federal government. They didn't. And when you're talking about federal intelligence database sharing, surveillance, drone footage sharing, high altitude balloon footage, because that's how the cameras, they float above with these high altitude balloons, high pressure, high altitude, that kind of sharing, That all needs federal oversight. That's how the government works. It belongs to the federal government to do those border security negotiations. And that's not what was happening. And multiple times. So, absolutely proof of the cartel. And I'm sorry I'm coming on so late, but it was, and tomorrow I'll wrap my head around this Michael, what's his name? Mullen. Oh gosh. I'm going to find it. Maldonado. 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 And Francis Engelbaum. Engelbaum means angel tree. They are not angels. Should their name be changed? I think their name should be changed to monster demon, to pollute the world, to blood on their hands. Maybe that's what their names need to be. And they need to face. Look, you've got this killer that got 35 years, and through half of it he'll be up for parole or whatever, and everybody's up in arms and everything. Rightfully so. But what Francis Engelbaum and her husband, Mathew Engelbaum, and the Baems, and the Montoya, and Jaime Esparza, and Steven Spitzer, and Connell Wenton, and the Harts, and of course, all these cartel, this population. What they have done is so, y'all, it's so bloody. It's so much damage. And they do it on the expense with the pay of taxpayers. That is how bad this is. They expect to get paid to destroy our world, our society. They are just the worst. They're just the worst. And they are up to no good all the time. Up to no good. Now that sounds like, oh, maybe grandma speak. Of course, I'm a grandma, so I'm a Gigi. I'm a Gigi. You can say, oh, that's a nice way of, whatever or however you want to express that you're up to no good. But I like it because it defines exactly who they are. No good. No good. There's no good found in them. No good in what they do. No good benefit to why they even have their job. No good benefit. I mean, they're no good. And I think it's a perfect reason because, when you have a pattern, when you are a perpetual criminal, that's the worst type of criminal. Sometimes you can really mess up, right? You can get drunk, you can do something stupid, you can maybe accidentally not look properly and hurt somebody, or let your anger get the best of you and do something you regret. And maybe participate in illegal activities, because you think it's just fun for a day or whatever, and you end up in jail, you whatever, and you pay your dues, and you can get on with your life again. Maybe it's not that easy, but when you are a perpetual criminal, it's not just the Walmart case. It's not just the 23 victims. It's not just the 22 injured victims. It's not just the act of war against a whistleblower soldier taking his life. It's not just because don't forget the AUSA that was contacted by Julio Cordero. And the next thing you know, he was dead, shot in the head. Does Mathew know her, this Deborah? Do they know they work in the same office? How big is this office? But it is the pattern of criminal activity over and over and over again. And you know what? God doesn't like that. God doesn't like that. I'm a Christian and I'm all about grace and forgiveness when there's restitution. Because there's no forgiveness without restitution, right? But when you just keep doing it over and over again with the Baems, and then with the Montoyas, and then with the Maladondos, and then with the Engelbaums and the Esparzas. his son is in that office, and his son is below standard, and didn't even sign the statement of officer. This is what they want you to pay for, and they want you to pay also with blood, because they are criminals, and that's what they do. They're up to no good. It's on the way to El Paso, I had a dream, and this is 6 years ago, right? Just not quite 6 years ago, almost 6 years. And I told everybody about it, about the mustard seed, and it was lots of those trees. God was showing me all these trees, and I couldn't understand it in my dreams. These mustard seeds that he was going to sprout. It's just 6 years later. Talk about a lot of faith. People are watching this and they're like, oh my gosh, the truth is sprouting faith. And the truth is coming out. And we need restitution. That means they need to pay for their crimes. And they need to pay the full extent of the law. Because what they have done is an act of war against our country, an act of war against our community, an act of war against the DA's office, an act of war against the U.S. Attorney's Office, the act of war against victims and against the FBI and against, and okay, and let's get into this. You have now reports coming that Israel was spying on the United States. Of course, everyone spies, right? But this group, along with Maru Campos, hired an Israeli to build this tower that I've showed everybody and put up. Let me turn it on. My goodness. Yeah, this is Steven Spitzer, Jaime Esparza, and Connell Witten. All three of these are monsters. They are worse than El Mayo. And El Mayo's pretty bad. These three are worse than El Mayo. Far worse. Far worse. And El Mayo is very bad. Just to be clear. These three need to be held accountable. Absolutely. Okay, and then I have Baem, or the Mayelas, you know. Who's worse? Who's worse? Who is worse? They are so bad. I mean, how far down to hell can these people descend to, right? And how they can just, you know, inside their blood must be black. Demons. Okay, so this is Nidal Baem's daughter, and of course, this is Michael Maldonado. I'll get it tomorrow. But you know what? I don't even. He needs to be named a different name. Ultimate Monster. No, that's too good. You know, fraudster. I'll have to come up with names for it because these are so bad, people. They're so bad. And here it is. She's running for a judge. His sister is running for a judge. Oh my gosh. And Montoya is endorsing her. And it's just like, Maldonado. Oh, whatever. These are monsters. And they do not need to be judges. They do not need to be. They were there during the Walmart. They were there. They worked in the DA's office. They were there. And I'm telling you that they obstructed justice for so many cases because they perpetuated, they engaged, and they facilitated the worst type of crimes. The worst type of crimes. 500,000 children were able to be trafficked through Fort Bliss because these people, a U.S. Army soldier was killed on base and his body trafficked because of these people. The Walmart was orchestrated and set up, staged, bloody. The people were executed because of these people, because of these monsters. The Mayelas, the Baems, the Engelbaums, the Esparzas, the Spitzers, the Wettens, the Harts. These, what they have put us through, and I say us. And it's really all about, oh, and I was going to show you the tower. Let me show you the tower. About election fraud, because they want to take our money and they want to be called Your Honor because they are the scum of the earth. Their scum is even rates higher than what they are, you know? Yeah, here's the tower. There you go. There's the tower. Wow. There's the tower that, oh, no way. If it's AI operated and they have the Pegasus spyware and it was built by an Israeli with this spyware, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They're not going to listen in to it when the spyware, Pegasus spyware, can uncrypt the encrypted phone call, right? So they're not going to listen to President Trump or the generals or no, they want to listen to who's a whistleblower. Who doesn't like the trafficking? Who doesn't like the perverts against children? Because that's who they want to go after. They'll be going after their own little cartel battles, right? Because they're not peaceful. They're not in total alliance like, oh, we're so happy now. We're all cartel. We're all running, organized crime. We're just so delighted now. No, they're shooting each other left and right. They don't have any kind of peace or sense of order. They're all vile, vulgar violence. And this is what they are bringing if we don't stand up to them. This is what they brought. You heard what happened in Belfast, right? A guy's, go look at the news. I can't even mention it because it's so bad and it's so late. But go look at Belfast, Ireland. What just happened there? These are monsters, and they're just violent, and they're vulgar, and they're vile, and they are disloyal. They're fraudsters, and they're deceptive. And they bring hell. They're up to no good. And if they're perpetual criminals, then they need to be treated like perpetual criminals. And they are. And I don't care if they say, oh, but I'm a DA or I'm an AUSA. I don't care. I'm a judge. I don't care. You are a criminal. A total criminal. And a perpetual criminal. The pattern is there over and over again. And so now here's Bibi Netanyahu, and they're saying, oh, he spied. Well, why? You need to point to Maru Campos. You need to point to Governor Abbott, because they're the ones that signed the treaty, right? The treaty right there. And who facilitated it? Right there, Alejandro de la Vega. Taking away sovereignty from the U.S. and from Mexico. And there's there it is, right there at Fort Bliss, spying. It's AI, so all of the surveillance, the conversations, the videos, it can go through, it will organize it, pick out things. And of course, they're not going to get a blocked AI. They're going to get an accessible AI. And then they allow their cartels to have access to federal databases to know who the whistleblowers are, who are the investigators, who are the nice guys, we need to get them out, who are the good generals, we need to get them out. That's what we're discovering, is that through this whole assault on our countries in Mexico and the United States, they have targeted those that love the country and to take them out of their positions of power. And that's why you see such great targeting of President Trump, trying to take his life, trying to take his wealth, trying to take his power, trying to take the power of the office away from him that he earned. They are targeting him. So, and I know it's late and I have these bright lights, so my eyes always close down a little bit when it's 2:00 in the morning. But we're not going to quit, because someone has to stand up. Everybody has to stand up. To these very evil, evil people and demand that they be held accountable and pay restitution, pay for what they've done, because that is the only way that we can secure our country and our communities, is to take crime seriously. And that is true grace. People always talk about grace like grace is supposed to be looking the other way and being tolerant for those that are up to no good. But that's not grace to the people that are the victims. No. Holding those that are perpetually up to no good accountable is grace, not only to people, but also to the land. And can't ever forget that, because they pollute the land. They pollute the land. And you see that when you look at California, the places where they really have a grip. They don't prepare for fires. They let things burn all over. They let feces go all over. They let dangerous needles go all over. And then they tell us, oh, you have to wear a mask. No, no, I want to breathe. I want to breathe. No. Now, if I'm doing lawn work with a bunch of dust and everything, then maybe I'll consider. But the way they want it, they wanted it as a symbol, like the Star of David during World War II. That's the way they wanted it. And I posted that up in 2020 and 2021. And they were using that. They were using so many tactics, asymmetric warfare tactics, mind control tactics, to shut down Richard's case, to shut down our case, which is so criminal. Really criminal. They must have no love for their children. They're so criminal. To find out that Nidal Baem is in the DA's office, that he's in the AUSA's office, that they're just all having a barbecue with each other. Yeah. Well, we knew it, and now we got the information. And so you have got to shake off the anger, because boy, it sure makes you mad. It makes you mad. Mad as hell. Gosh. Mad as hell. Shake it off. And we need to demand justice. Because now we've got the evidence and the truth. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on so late. I didn't even see if there was any comments. I didn't even log in because I hope that this even went. Oh, what a day. What a day. Yeah. This even went. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you so much. Oh, Diablo for name. Yeah, that is good. La Diabla. That was Tulsi Gabbard brought forth that, and that was brutal, really brutal for them. Thank you so much. Mucho love, Gold Star Mom. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, well, I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And I guarantee you, we are not only going on live, but we are absolutely filing. And I hope that you join in that. And really, the only thing is to share. And all those